Thanks for clicking on the video. Today we're at 5x5 Flower Farm here in southeast Queensland with Sarah and Dan. Thanks for having us. We're going to have a look around and see some beautiful flowers, and for those of you that are new to flower growing or want to get better at growing flowers, this is the perfect video for you. We're going to learn heaps. So let's see what's growing on. There's the artwork. There you go.
Aww,
Watercolour.
Chloe,
Yeah, that's
wow.
really nice.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and there's some honey
Aw.
for my bees as well.
Thanks, how
No
good.
worries.
But yeah,
Like
I
that.
think it all started because we wanted something different, I guess. We wanted to, I suppose, slow down, work outside, do something different. Had always loved flowers.
Yep.
And so it kind of meets that for me, but also for Dan, just working outside, and it's great. It's very rewarding because, it's how much you put into it, and I guess we're at the point now we really both love it, and so it doesn't feel like work,
Yep.
which is kind of the dream, really, to be doing something like that. But yeah, it's just evolved over time. We started, 3 years ago, and then
Approximately 3 years ago.
we
Coming
planted
up to it.
so much stuff, and then we had nowhere to get rid of it. We didn't really have the business hats on, so we didn't really have all that set in place. So we were kind of just giving it all away often. And then we started giving the majority of it to a florist,
Yep.
didn't we? And then we did some farmers markets and got into things that way, did a few subscriptions where people would purchase bouquets over a period of time.
And you were saying before that you were completely new to farming in general. So
Yeah, neither of us
this
had-
here is completely just trial and error. And
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Totally.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah, we had totally different jobs, didn't we? So it's just been a lot of research and also just trying things and failing at them and
Working out what works for us and what works in this space as well.
sandy soil to begin with. Hey, so we've had to add as much organics as we can, and just getting our hands on good stuff and trying to improve the soil really.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll just a little video of the soil.
Yeah.
That's worm castings, this bit.
Oh,
Yeah.
probably, yeah. But yeah, we can show you the other stuff we have, which is good.
When I first started, I wanted to just do it as simply as possible, and I was getting a lot of advice from a lot of people, and I was resistant to it initially, but over the last couple of years, eventually it sinks in, the good advice, and
Yep.
so we've started adding stuff like biochar. I make biochar.
So cool.
There's no shortage of timber around here, so every few weeks or so I will do a burn in my biochar tub.
Yep. And what soil additive would you say has made the biggest difference in the gardens? Like I heard you say you put
Probably
compost
cattle
in,
manure.
manure.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we first started, we went to a dairy and filled up a trailer with it, didn't we? And that was great. That was really great. Sometimes we reflect on the first season as being, we thought that was kind of the most fruitful, but it's just hindsight, maybe. I don't know. But that manure was really, was really good.
When we were lucky on this property as well, when it was purchased, there was a huge mound of rotted wood chips
Oh yeah.
that the previous owners had just left. And so we had really great, the combination of those rotted wood chips and cattle manure was really great initially.
Now it's just worm castings. We bought them locally, and
Compost.
some good kind of a farmer's mix that
Because
someone makes.
our boys are there in the garden with us every day, and then I understand, we've got visitors coming to pick flowers, and then they'll handle them, then they'll take them and, have them in their home. We try not really to use too many chemicals in the garden.
Yep.
I will spray with a couple of things every now and again, but
Yep.
I try and pick what is certified organic, I suppose.
And it's just learning different things. Like we have the snapdragons now, but in summer, if we were to grow them, they are just riddled with caterpillars. And whilst there, to be fair, I think there might be a few lingering around, but every little one of these, there's like a hidden caterpillar in there. Do you know?
Oh,
in summer,
wow.
and they're just riddled.
Yeah.
And so you would have to spray that so frequently and everything.
You would have to spray it with something that's systemic as well.
But
See, that's
now-
got a caterpillar in it, I think.
What do you mean
Maybe.
by systemic?
We'll spray it, and then it will then treat the plants, and so they'll be treated for a couple of months. So see the little
I see.
caterpillar in there? Like, just going to pull it apart.
Get right in there, yeah, little tiny guy. But so it's just learning that, because you could grow these in summer
Yep.
here, but these we'll just keep doing successions of these over the cooler months, and you know we'll have these till September, won't we? Pretty much, and they're
Yep.
Yeah. So
And do you prune the flowers very often to like promote more growth, or
yeah,
do you
all
just
the time, yeah. And I think that's part of because most of the varieties we grow are what they would call cut and come again.
right?
And the more you pick from them, the more they bloom. And as well with the snaps, you can see they're quite long.
Yep.
So the more you cut them, and if you cut them deep into the plant, that encourages the longer stems as well, and they can get really quite tall. So most of the varieties are like that. The more we cut them, the more they keep producing. But stock is one that we grow in winter, and that's just a one and done. But I think we don't grow many of the one and done varieties because I don't know, it's just nice to get the most out of the plant, all that effort you put into it.
Yeah, of course.
We tend to mainly grow, what is it, annuals?
Yeah, we grow
Yep.
everything as an annual. So if we were, because we don't have a lot of space, we kind of want the bed space.
Mhm.
So even the dahlias, we could easily cut them back, mulch them really nicely, and they would all produce again for us, you know.
Right, from the bulb.
Yeah, totally. I
Right.
mean,
Even
eventually with a
this
dahlia,
Gomphrena is another example.
yeah,
this
you
one?
could cut the gomphrena back.
This will be coming out soon.
This
but
this
if
is
we were
all
to cut this
perennials
back,
too, yeah.
In spring it will grow again and bloom again. But
Yeah.
we are going to want this bed space for something else fairly shortly, so it's kind of at the end of its run, this Gomphrena.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, everything we would grow as an annual just to use the space. We'll put something in here, and then, you know, that can be for the cooler months, and then we'll get summer stuff back in.
Yep.
Again, so it is changing over a lot. So one day, if we have a permanent site, it'd be great to grow some perennials that can just stay there.
Yep.
But that's just not what we're doing here, so that's okay.
We also have to consider it's only the two of us, and so
Yep.
we're intending to add 4 more beds, and then that will be the capacity of what just the two of us are able to maintain together.
Right.
That feels doable.
That it will be enough then for us to look after ourselves and do what we want to do with.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what would you say, like I heard you talking before about more of the agro-tourism side of this. What would you say some of the dreams are for this space? Like what would you love to be able to do? And then, yeah, obviously like the finances of that is
Yeah, well, we've only been doing the flower picking since November, so
Yep.
6 months or so.
That's been really positive for us as well. We really enjoy
Yeah.
observing other people enjoy this space. We've put a lot of effort into it, and so it's very rewarding for us to have other people come and enjoy, you know, what we've created as well. I really love that. That's great.
Yeah, so we've had a few different things. We've had the regular flower picking, so people will come, they'll buy a ticket for like an hour and a half, you know,
Yep.
we'll have some music on, and they just wander around and fill a vase. And it's been really nice. Everyone's feedback is just that it's peaceful and
Yep.
makes a nice change from other activities, you know, and just relaxing. And so then we've started to do a few different things. This weekend we have a pottery and pick workshop where
Oh,
we've
that's
got
so cool.
a potter coming in and making
Wow.
some bud vases with people, and then they'll pick, and we'll have morning tea and go. We kind of want to get into that side of things too.
Even garden parties, so you know, a food truck, some live music.
Yeah, I guess
and-
that's like big. That's kind of big picture, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. We're not quite ready for that kind of event yet, but
Yep.
that's something that we've talked about, and it is on the cards for down
Yeah.
the track.
We would just want to have the quantity of flowers to meet
Yep.
the demand of something like that. There's so many different things you could do.
You're very
Um,
creative.
Yeah. A lot of what we've been doing here has sort of been proof of concept to ourselves. Like,
Yep.
you know, it started with can we grow flowers, and we grew flowers, and then will other people be interested in our flowers, and other people have shown interest in our flowers. So it's been like a lot of steps where we've demonstrated to ourselves that I guess the hopes we had for this space is actually realistic.
Right.
That's something that other growers will come and they'll say, "Gosh, your place is so neat."
It is.
And but I guess it's just
That's
with
how I roll.
yeah,
though.
you're a bit like
bit,
that.
bit,
And,
a bit OCD.
yeah.
a little bit.
Whereas if it was like up to me, I wouldn't mind. I want like some archways and some vines and some like
Yeah.
crazy grandma gardens happening. But
Cottage
Or
style.
even
Yeah.
when we first started, we didn't have whole rows of one variety. We had like bits and pieces everywhere,
yeah.
and
But I think that because a lot of growers, you know, friends that we have that run more commercial, wholesale flower farms, you know, everything's got to be. It's all about efficiency, isn't it? So you've got to have all your yellows together, all your pinks together, because you're bunching them up together, and you know that's how it's all very color blocked, I suppose.
Right, that's interesting.
But for us, that's not really an issue. And so I think when it's all mixed in, I don't know, to me it just feels a bit more like a garden, I guess, because we also feel like we can't call ourselves a flower farm because we're not really a, you know,
It's like a flower
flower
hobby.
field, flower patch,
Yeah,
flower,
right.
don't know, but it is amazing how much you can grow in a small space.
Definitely.
Really.
and that's something that I think people don't realise is you don't need acres and acres.
Yep.
You can do something quite effectively in a reasonably small space.
Yeah, I would say this is probably like the average size of or depending where you live, but a rough backyard in
Yeah.
Sure.
an
it's
urban
a-
area.
Yep.
Yeah.
And most people would just have just grass.
Yeah.
So this is really nice to see.
Hmm.
Do you think if you were to start over from the start with like the knowledge you have now, would you do anything differently, or would you? Yeah, how would you?
I don't know that we do anything significantly differently.
Yep.
Maybe some of the varieties, like we've had varieties in here that just don't work.
In the
Right.
beginning,
So after
we
a few
tried a
goes
lot.
at it,
Yeah.
I've realised that there's no point wasting our time with those varieties anymore.
Yeah.
And maybe in the future, when the soil's a bit more nutritious for plants, they might work. But at this point in time, it's just wasting our resources to try and grow these varieties that don't work here.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would.
There's
It's-
still a lot of troubleshooting going on in the garden as well, and I mentioned to you the mulch that we've been using, I suspect, and I don't know for certain, it will only be once I've tried, but I suspect it's been causing some fungal issues with some of the seedlings. We're just letting it rot a little bit before we'll introduce it into the garden beds.
Because, yeah,
Is-
once it's done that, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
we used it on
This one
maybe
here,
this one
yeah.
here.
The dahlias.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all finished now, but once it rots down, whereas the commercial sugarcane that we were getting, it doesn't seem to rot down as much,
Right. Okay.
and I'm not sure why. And maybe I'm imagining it as well, but I've decided that we're not going to use commercial sugarcane anymore, just because I'm not getting the results I'd hoped for from it.
But, yeah, I think you have to go through, we've had to go through everything to get to this point, too.
Yep.
Like, when you say, would you do anything differently? I'm not sure. It is nice that it's been, I think for us, it's taken these couple of years to realise what direction we want to go in.
Yeah, well,
Really?
we didn't
So-
really, like Sarah mentioned earlier on, we had no market for our blooms for probably the first 12 months. Besides a friend who is a florist in Brisbane, she would just accept whatever we had
Yep.
happily. And so she was our only real outlet, and so we were regularly driving down to Brisbane to deliver her buckets of flowers, which wasn't really covering the cost of the garden, and so we probably operated at a loss.
Yep.
But the positive thing is we can see, and like the records show it, that each year we've sort of gained a little bit momentum as far as
Right.
income goes.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think we would. I mean, I suppose the dream would be eventually we could have our own property and we would take this knowledge and do it there and
Yeah.
hopefully live on site where we're doing it. But I guess we would try. We'd probably have the mindset of it's a event space, it's a picking space. So
Yeah,
we'd set it up like that, wouldn't we? And
Yep.
and stuff, I guess.
there's no real interest. We have no real interest in being wholesalers, and so we view this as a space that we want to share with other people.
Right.
Whether that's coming on site to have, the pottery thing that's coming up on Saturday, or come and pick a bunch of flowers. We have had brides come on who have a wedding coming up that have been able to come on and select their own blooms for their wedding and that kind of thing.
That's cool.
And so, there's just a lot of scope here for diversification, and
Yep.
I think farmers, and not that I would call myself a farmer, but farmers in general, that's what they're going to need to be doing in future.
Like getting more creative with
Yeah.
the
just
more
agro-tourism.
And the
and-
agro-tourism,
that they
sure.
generate income.
Right. Yeah, and I saw that you guys have a really good social media, which I think would help. I've seen a lot of farms that they don't really have a social media presence,
Yeah.
which would make it more difficult, I'm guessing.
Yeah, at the moment we're really just mostly Instagram. We're slowly building a website.
Yep.
But so far that's been good enough for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
So last question, how can people support you?
Buy flowers.
Yeah, buy
B-
flowers.
Buy flowers.
Well, also, it's like I mentioned earlier, the huge majority of flowers that we buy in Australia from a more traditional florist or from a supermarket have been imported.
Yep.
And so try and source local flowers. They're better anyways, so
Yep.
you might as well.
Avoid the fungicides, is that?
Yeah.
The methyl bromide or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah,
Like who knows? You know what it's like when you've gone travelling and you come back to Australia and you've got to like declare every single thing that you possibly might have in your luggage. And so you can imagine what it's like with flowers, how particular they are about that, and all the strict quarantine kind of rules. But
These ones here, when we're picking, let's say we were picking for an event, and we will pick them 24 hours beforehand, so they've had that time to condition in a cool bucket of water in a cool space, and then the person who's purchasing them gets them generally within 24 to 36 hours, I would say. Whereas an imported bloom, it might be a week before you get it, and so it's already starting to fade.
Right.
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
that's
we've had blooms, and sunflowers are a good example. We don't have any at the moment, but in summer we will have them. They still look good after 3 weeks on the table in a vase.
Yep.
Whereas I think from a more commercially grown or imported flower, you're not getting that longevity of vase life, and so you're just getting better value if you can find a local grower,
Yep.
I think.
it feels pretty special to pick them, bunch them up the next day, and hand them to someone. or you know, we sell them at there's a little vegetable shop down the end of our street, and they sell them over the weekend for us, and it's nice. I think people also they resonate too with people because they're just different than what you can get at the supermarket. You know,
Yep.
I think they're just different varieties. They feel a bit more homegrown and things like that. So yeah, the freshness for us is pretty special, I think.
Yeah, of course.
But definitely as well the novelty of people coming to pick their own flowers. Like even when the other day when everyone was here and all you can hear, you know, oh my snips, someone stole my snips, is you can just hear the like 20 snips going at the same time.
Yeah.
Click, 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 click. I don't know, I quite like that.
ASMR, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
The dahlias, soon those will come out. But we have some nice varieties that we got from, there's a breeder in America called Erin from Floret Flowers. If anyone's interested in flowers, they will know who that is. But
Yep.
she breeds the dahlias too. So we got some seeds from them, and they're just kind of a little bit quirky and different than the typical dahlias. But yeah, we will take these out soon and dig up the tubers and store them and then divide them
Yep.
the next season to plant in, you know, 4 or 5 months, something like that. And then over here we've got cornflowers in all the colours. And these ones here
These
are called
ones-
corn cockle, and
There.
they're lovely, but they do
See,
not
this
love
is
the heat. So
that's an example of like the stem rot I was telling
Yeah.
you about. That's just rotted completely off. Most
so
of
we
these
may
have
we
actually.
probably planted these too early.
Well, that one
or-
as well.
Right.
So just
Or maybe also we've thought about for that season where you're planting the cool weather stuff, in the warm weather, maybe we'll rig up a shade and spend the first couple of weeks.
But
actually
it's also
under cover.
because it's been so wet in the last few months.
Yeah,
That's not going to live.
we've had so much rain, haven't we?
Yeah, so much rain, and then some of these plants, they just, I think, don't like being perpetually wet
Yep.
because they're going in healthy, and then they seem to get a lot of rot around the ground level, the stems, and so
but we did try and
that's
get
something
this-
that we're trying to troubleshoot at the moment.
Yeah. So it's you know, you can feel confident, and then you can totally feel like
Yeah, well, that's
no idea
something
what
that,
you're
yeah,
Yeah, I was going to say that's like part of battling the weather is you just can't
yeah.
can't predict that. That just
no,
happens.
you
Yeah.
can't predict it.
But that's okay. We'll have more, and we'll just keep. We have some more over there, but we'll just keep planting them throughout the next few weeks, so that we will have some because they're really pretty and not
Yeah.
so common. They're called corn cockle. They're really nice.
I like them because they're a great producer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dan's more practical. I'm more about the prettiness of
Yeah.
them.
Finding flowers that grow like weeds, right?
Yeah, that's the dream.
And so down there is.
I've got plenty of weeds that grow like weeds, but
That's true. So Gomphrena, that's a fun one that dries really nicely. But again, we only did one succession of that. So next year we're going to make sure we have multiple so that it just continues to look good and we can get rid of it when it's looking tired.
Yep.
More snapdragons, but same thing again. You know, we lost several seedlings.
well, we didn't lose several. We
Well,
lost
we lost a lot of seedlings.
probably 50% of what we put in.
Wow.
So there should have been more in here. Anyway, again, just trying to figure that stuff out.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is more dahlias as well.
They're
But
all
again,
finished
they're
though.
finished. They'll come out this week. But yeah, we're just slowly trying to build up our stock of them, I suppose, and our colours too. We seem to have a lot of one colour, so we're trying to figure that out too
Yep.
a little bit. And we did sell some tubers last season as well, so that was nice. Just sold some mixed bags to people that came on the farm, didn't we?
Yep.
So that was good. More snaps, and then further down we have little seedlings, little kind of winter seedlings growing. So stock, which is beautiful, very kind of a grandma flower.
Yep.
Smells really nice.
Anemones.
We have anemones over there. We can take a look at them in a minute. Yeah, we'll go this way. So stock. Then there's ranunculus.
Ranunculus, that's a really cool name.
Yeah, they're really beautiful. Like a bit of a rose.
They're quite spectacular,
They are
but
quite nice.
they've struggled in this space as
But they
well.
like
So
it cold, so we're trying for the 3rd year to see if we can get anything good. In a cool climate, they would just thrive.
Yep.
But we have them, and then more cornflowers, more snaps, some poppies as well down there.
Oh, cool.
So we're also trying again. I love sweet peas, but
Yes.
we're just trying to get them better as well. But the new growth is looking better, but again,
I
just
think they went in a bit too soon.
a bit hot.
Yep.
Maybe. And again, maybe we could shade them. So I'm just going to keep
And
planting them.
that's one of the challenges in southeast Queensland with growing winter varieties is because our winter is so short. You've got to try and time it where they're not going in too soon, but they're not blooming too late.
Right.
And so it can be a bit tricky, but that's something that we're slowly working out.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is ranunculus, and you just plant like an ugly little,
Looks a bit like a squid almost.
yeah.
Oh, wow,
they call it
okay.
like a corn, don't they? Corn.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you just soak that, and then you bury it in there, and they just pop up. So we have quite a few through there, you can see, and then those 2 rows are anemones, which are really one of a favourite of mine. They're lovely, but
Yep.
same thing as I was saying before. You know, you've got to, when you see the new growth, when the bud comes up, you have to. The first ones will be like this tall, which obviously you can't do anything with.
Yep.
But as long as you cut them down, it'll just keep producing longer and longer stems as the season goes on.
Yep.
And so then, you know, you can actually have doable stems to put in an arrangement or a vase. And
And then obviously you found that drip irrigation is the best form of irrigation.
There's no water supply here besides the tanks.
rainwater tanks.
And so I can imagine that at some point water is going to be an issue, but
Yep.
for the last 3 years it's been wet, and so it hasn't been. The tanks have remained full, but you know, once we're draining the tanks, then we're going to have to start thinking whether we'll need to have a bore put in or something along those lines. There's a strawberry farm next door, and so they have a big dam out the back, and also the nursery,
Yep.
like huge dams, you know, the space of to the tree line, I suppose. And so the water table's not too far from the surface, I'm hoping, and if it comes to it and we need to have a bore put in, we'll just try and get it put in down the back somewhere in a low spot and see what happens.
So far, so good. We seem to get a lot of rain here.
Yeah, and it doesn't, because there's a lot of roof catchment,
Yeah.
it doesn't take much to fill the tanks up, so that's fortunate. But yes, drip irrigation, that's kind of, I would like to, if I had unlimited water supply, I'd probably do a bit of overhead watering as well.
Yep.
But I don't have unlimited water supply, so that's something we have to be conscious of, is just a bit of water conservation, and so yeah, we use the drips. And so we had this.
Cool. It's like a pit.
Yeah. We had this bathtub, just an old steel bathtub, and it's probably not ideal, but it works. And so, oh, there's a toad in there. What I'll do is every few weeks, I just a pile of sticks. That's my next pile there. So just layer the pile of sticks in, and then find some standing dead wood.
Yep.
So it's not, you know, not rotten on the ground, and just pile the bath up.
Yep.
And over the course of a few hours, it just, you know, get it blazing, and then cover it up. And over the course of a few hours, it will make the charcoal. And, you know, I've only done it a few times so far, so I'm not sure if I'm doing it correctly, but
Yep.
as far as I know, I am. And so then I will, you know, douse the fire, which I've been told opens the pores in the charcoal, so it's more easily able to absorb the moisture and the nutrients.
Yep.
Or the, not really nutrients, the microbes.
Because it's the surface area of the charcoal, right?
Yeah.
Like,
So that's a bit that probably didn't burn as well as I would have liked.
has a very high surface area. Little microbes. So cool.
Yeah, so, but anyways, and then the boys in the factory made me a tool just to crush it. So I'll crush it down, and it's by hand, so it's not perfect, but probably the consistency between like salt that you put in a salt grinder
Oh yeah.
and marbles, I suppose. And then I will inoculate it with, we've got worm castings, bit of chook poo,
Yep.
and some seaweed. Let that inoculate for about a week or so. And then when the beds get turned over, I will turn it into the beds.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I've been doing that since late last year now. So that's starting to, I think, get some good results.
It's really cool. And it's free.
Yeah, free. That's what I like the most about it. Like, there's no shortage, and it's actually beneficial to, you know, not that this is making a dent in it, but these
Yep.
trees, it's beneficial to thin them out a little bit. And it's just something that can, you know, burn away while we're working. So every few weeks I'll do that.
That's really cool.
But yeah, that's something like even this sugar we mentioned, that was, you know, I think you're better off trying to source your, for us it's soil additives.
Materials like
Yeah, instead of, you know, buying it from Bunnings, get
Yep.
it from other farmers. I was saying the boys are here every day with us.
Yep.
And then when people purchase the blooms, they're handling them, or they're even in the garden cutting them. So, you know, I don't want to be spraying with anything that is overly harsh.
Yep. Has to be child friendly.
So, yeah, child friendly. I call this my briefcase. And so we've got, what's this? That's Azamax. That's certified organic.
Okay.
Um,
That's cool.
So this one here, it's Pybo, natural pyrethrum, but that's 1 day withholding. So spray in the afternoon, as far as I'm aware, and the research I've done, spray in the afternoon, and by mid-morning the next day, the UV has broken it down.
Oh, okay.
And so this is some fungicide.
Eco fungicide.
Yeah, so that's just potassium bicarbonate. So,
Right.
and an activated sulfur, mancozeb. And so
Right.
anyways, this one here, this is caterpillars. I've nearly used that up, but that's also a biological insecticide.
It's really cool.
So we can't, you know, neglect them with sprays and whatnot completely, but we can use products that are a bit more gentle, I suppose.
Yep.
I hope. We're interested in growing from seed, and so
Yeah.
all our germination is done at home under lights. And it took us a lot of, like, we had to work it out. Initially, we got a first really nice succession of seedlings when we first started, but then struggled after that.
Mm-hmm.
And just, you know, we were trying to get things started just outside on the ground. And so we would get germination, and then the sun would just kill the plants.
Yep.
And so we worked out that doing it under an agricultural light, we can do it at home. We can get the plants or the seeds germinated and the seedlings to a point that we can then bring them out and set them under the shade to condition, and they're going in a lot healthier.
Yep. Compared to just putting the seeds straight in and they get blasted by the sun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways,
good to
that
know.
works for us. Even potting mix, you know, we messed around with some commercial potting mixes and didn't get very good results with it. I actually saw an experiment on social media where a guy got a whole bunch of different brands of potting mix.
Yep.
And put drainage in the bottom and cut holes in top, and just planted straight into all these potting mixes, and you know, all these seedlings died. And so we were finding the same thing. And so with a bit of trial and error, we've worked out a bit of a potting mix that works for us.
Yep.
And so I'm quite often sat at home sieving cocoa and dirt and mixing it up.
And
I want to get a cement mixer, but they're expensive.
That would be cool.
And it needs to be clean, and so I want to get a cement mixer that will just mix my potting mix for me.
And what's the potting mix that you found works?
Well,
good?
we get cocoa, just bricks of it, and so I will add about 50% cocoa to 50% of a commercial mix that we get from our local co-op, and then just add
Yep.
some slow release into that as well.
Yeah, okay. That's cool.